mediation and settlement agreement and some proposed resolutions and everything. Before we start, I'd just like to make a couple minutes of comments about 2016, which is now concluded. I think in a lot of ways we've had a banner year in 2016. We've done more major repair work on our BigTree buildings than have ever been done in the history of BigTree. 23 buildings, $358,769 spent on building repairs, which is 83.4% of our annual budget, so that's pretty huge. When we finish the year, you'll see the cash report at our formal board meeting with a cash balance of $63,289.77, which is really exactly what we had planned as we move forward. We had total assets of $82,208, again, right on target for our plans. We made obviously a number of other improvements at BigTree in the landscaping, the lights, the 24-hour security system, overall landscaping, and so I think we've made a lot of progress. It was frankly very difficult, as I mentioned before, because most of the year we only had 2 active board members on our 2016 board, and in some cases it was just 1, although I did get some valuable help from some of our committee members who are here, from Louis Lira, Bill Jasper, etc., and so I'm very positive. We also achieved a rather remarkable turnaround in terms of our real estate values and the whole real estate market at BigTree. Previously, it was very, very difficult or almost impossible to sell a home here at a reasonable price, and most of the sales were falling through because of the extensive wood rot and the home buyers' inability to get a mortgage. This year, again, we've turned it around. From the beginning of last year until current, we have like 18 closed home sales at dramatically higher prices than we've had in over 10 years at BigTree. So we've made a tremendous amount of progress in that area. We've also made progress in our work orders. We started with a huge number of pending work orders from the prior year that haven't been dealt with or whatever. Louis Lira, I think, is going to give us a little report on some of the specifics. And obviously we weren't able to do everything at BigTree, and I've been excited about this year because now we have, I feel, our 7 qualified board members as a team, and I think going forward we can make even more significant progress. Obviously our homeowners have received a number of blast emails about this thing called the MSA and some proposed resolutions. I want to make it clear first that they didn't come. Normally the blast emails come from the president of the board, or at least with his direction and approval. And that's not the case in this particular situation. There are have been some differences of opinion about this mediation settlement agreement issue that I have been frankly very, very concerned about. Matter of fact, as things progressed and I looked at some of the specifics, I became even more alarmed at some of the costs that we could be imposing on BigTree, which might be totally unsustainable, and the fact that some of these issues may not even work. I even question the underlying premise of the reason for this complying with this MSA agreement, which was allegedly that otherwise our BigTree board members would have a personal financial liability for willful violation of this law. I subsequently asked our board attorney, Sean Morrell, to do more extensive research into the issue and to give us a specific report in terms of where we stood on it and the legal issues and whatever. And actually there were like 14 pages of emails that came out in the last couple days, and quite frankly he resolved that for a whole lot of reasons that there is absolutely zero. There is no personal financial liability for any of our board members. As a matter of fact, he warned us that approving these proposals could result in serious legal jeopardy because of our inability, our possible inability to be able to implement them. We'll talk about a proposed RFP, which Louis Lear has put together, which is a request for proposal from other association management companies to see if they're going to be able to fulfill the responsibilities that have been specifically outlined. They're very extensive, 21 pages. They're extremely well documented, and I think Luis did an outstanding job in putting them together. The question, though, is when we actually go out in the real world and talk to CAM and other association management companies, what's it going to cost us to implement, and is it affordable? And we don't know the answer to that issue right now. We don't even know whether they're workable. Again, our board attorney has advised us that we could be putting ourselves in a situation by passing that of a significant financial liability because of the fact we may not be able to get a association management company to be able to fulfill it. CAM has expressed some real doubts and some real concerns about it. And I know there's a meeting set up next week to talk about more of the specifics, but again, right now, there's some serious question marks that create a whole lot of concern, on my part. I'm also concerned just from a practical standpoint. We made a whole lot of progress last year and spent a lot of money, and I just don't see that we can afford to try to turn everything upside down now on a problem that is clear that legally doesn't even exist anymore. And we certainly have to know what the costs are going to be financially before we make any commitments going forward. So I am totally against voting on or approving any kind of resolutions at this point. I think it's absolutely premature. Our board attorney has warned us that it is dangerous and it could cause some serious legal liability as well as imposing some significant costs. So again, I've talked to him at length about it. I could go through some of the details, but since it is a legal matter, I think that's something that our board attorney should speak directly to the board and the owners at BigtreeBird. Let's not jump into something with our eyes closed and find out we've created a legal mess and also are assuming some huge financial liabilities that we just can't afford now if we're going to continue to move forward and repair our buildings as we planned. This is going into year 2 of our 5-year plan to make BigTree great again. I think we made outstanding progress in this year, and with a 7-member board, I think moving forward we can continue the progress. I fully believe that all the principles underlying our plan, and specifically with the buildings, are extremely sound. We decided wherever we could, we were going to do whole buildings rather than going around and doing piecemeal repairs. We also made it clear that we're going to deal with emergencies right away. So anybody has a serious leak or a safety problem, we will deal with that. We have been dealing with that, and Luis will speak specifically about some of the specifics in that area. So I guess that's pretty much. I don't want to have any long drawn-out thing. I'd like to turn it over to Luis and talk a little bit more specifically about our work order situation, what the status of it is, what work orders we fulfilled and are closed now, what orders are still pending, and also have Luis talk about the request for a proposal. We are opening it up and we are looking at other management companies. We want the best possible management company that we can afford for BigTree, and whether that's CAM or whether that's another management company we select. I just want to make sure that we have a company. I'm all in favor of moving forward. I think a management company should take a more active role. I've been frankly disappointed over the last year that we haven't had a community manager. As you probably know, in the first several months of last year, Eric Berry was here as our community manager, and I thought he did an outstanding job, and things would have been great. Unfortunately, Eric had some very, very serious health problems, and the doctors warned him he could die if he didn't, so he went in and had extensive medical problems, and Cam had promised to replace them with another community manager. They have not been able to do that, so that has been an issue and a problem. They're saying now that they will be able to going forward, but again, it's kind of an open issue. But my concern is that we continue moving forward to make our progress great again. We want to increase the value of our property. We want to complete our repairs, do it in a top-notch quality fashion. We want to improve our landscaping. I think in Richard Wakely, we got a real professional. He's been doing that for a lot of years as a professional, and I think that has been a little bit of a weak area. We have made some problems, but frankly, or some progress rather, but frankly there have been some problems that we haven't solved with roofs and gutters being cleaned, and you know, some of the tree problems and et cetera. And Richard basically looks at and evaluates communities and looks at how we can really make those communities more appealing, both from a market standpoint and from being a pleasant and great place to live. So I'm excited about the progress I think we're going to be able to make in that year. That's pretty much all I have. We'll turn it over to Louis and go from there, and at the end we can open it up for any questions. So Luis?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of things that I wanted to make a point on. One is we take the documentation that was associated with the MSA extremely serious. We take it to heart. Some of the things that we've been working on, and recognize this board was elected December 10th, and barring holidays and a couple of weeks of festivities, they got to work, and they've been working on issues that are relative to Bigtree, extremely important issues, to move us forward in this next year. And part of those issues is compliance with the MSA. A big portion that I've been asked to focus in on is how do we comply relative to the maintenance and grounds and assure that we've got an unbiased process to be able to have a management company come in and manage the events and the issues relative to Bigtree, but with board of director and homeowner oversight. That's very important because you can't just have a management company come in and tell you that they're doing things, because you live here. You see it every day. You know whether they're doing it or not. So there has to be some sort of teeth in a proposal going back with whatever management company we as a team, homeowners and board of directors, decide that we're going to engage. If we can't hold their feet to the fire, which has been evident in the past, then we're lost. We're just paying a management company to do things that they're not going to fulfill. So to that end, I've been asked to put together a document. That document is called the Request for Proposal, or in short, RFP. That request for proposal delineates in total all of the intent that we are asking the management company to comply with, which bridges the requirements of the MSA. And each of those requirements that we put on the management company, we're asking them to bid on the entire proposal, will have what's called a deliverable. That deliverable is, and it takes many forms. It could be for work orders, as an example, a monthly status report of open and closed work orders that contain the request date, which currently we can't do a correlation between a request date and a completion date to see how long a work order's been open. I do that manually because I can quickly figure out that a work order's been open for 250 days. That's totally unacceptable. Why is that? So how do we put the management team's feet to the fire? So we've incorporated a lot of those items and that type of thinking in the request for proposal. And Bill, you posted it on the website, have you not? That's okay. Yeah. Okay, so it's out there for people to read. Okay. Now, understand that in order to go out with a proposal to a management group, we have to have some sort of relative idea as homeowners what it is that the board of directors is asking.
They go together.
That the board of directors is asking the management company to fulfill. And so you have to be aware, because it affects you ultimately in the loan. And your dues pays for that. So what we've done is we've accumulated through sensing sessions with different people within the community 4 potential management groups. Now, will that be the ultimate group that we're going to go out to? No. If we get an additional input from the homeowners that another management group should be included in this process, then we will do so. Now, just quickly, the condominium concepts is one that has been proposed to have the RFP sent to and quoted on. The Signature Realty, another group that manages properties locally. Lighthouse Association Management, and ultimately the CAM team. And you're going to say, well, why are we including the CAM team? Well, because we want to take any notion off the table that shows either favoritism or a preconceived idea of what this team is going to do. So for clarity, they have been included. Now, again, is this the ultimate list? We won't know that until we have the complete meeting on the 25th. And if there are no additional groups that have been identified, then these are the 4 groups that we intend to go out to. Now, as Larry mentioned, why are we going out to these groups with this RFP? Well, if you don't know what's out there, you don't know how to measure what you have. What we have today is the CAM. Yeah, we have history, but when we go out and we start soliciting other groups, we might find there's something better. Now, will it make it cheaper? Well, we don't know. So to that end, you have to ask yourself, well, how are you going to select all these people? Well, we put together a selection matrix. The selection matrix is based on numeric rating. And the numeric rating is based on every single paragraph of the RFP that makes a request of the management company. If they respond in the positive, then yes, we will do that, they get a 1. If they don't respond in the positive, they get nothing. So then we go through and we tally up in that matrix at the end of the process and rate the companies 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, is that the end of the evaluation? No. Now you go back to your matrix and you figure out what did they say they would not do and how important is that to us. Do we modify the rating a little bit and not just go with a numeric? So you got to put a little brain power behind it. So that's the process. And I know it's a lengthy explanation of trying to explain it. But again, what's the goal? Get an outside management company to come in and fulfill all the requirements of the maintenance and grounds with oversight from the board of directors and the homeowners. And that's the extent of the RFP. Now, just show of hands, how many people have even looked at it on the website? 1, 2,
Is this what's on the website?
5. I'm sorry?
The RFP.
The RFP.
Oh, okay. I don't know, because I haven't.
Now, it's out there for your review. It's out there for your comment.
I want to bring up something real quick with CAM. I read the contract that Chuck Klein signed in 14 with CAM, the original contract. That I think it was just good for 2 years. But anyway, I read that, and they promised to do all kinds of wonderful things, like inspect the buildings weekly. They had vendors. They had all this stuff. None of it was ever done.
How do we enforce that?
I don't know if they.
How did you enforce it?
Well, they broke the contract. If they
How did you enforce it?
Pardon me?
How did you enforce it?
I didn't. I wasn't part of the deal. I don't know
You're
anything
talking in
about it.
terms of how would you enforce it?
No.
No,
The point of the matter is, what I just mentioned.
What I'm saying is, Chuck either told them he didn't want them to do those services, even though we were paying.
I can't respond to that.
Okay, well, what
Okay.
I'm saying is, my question is, I have a problem with CAM because they did promise to do a lot of things that they never fulfilled. So I think maybe they ought to be the last person on the list, or maybe they shouldn't be given, an option to.
Then how would you deal with a lawsuit coming next you that says it's an unfair advantage because of,
Well, my
Not
understanding
being
is
able
you
to
don't
pay.
have a written contract with CAM right now today.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt, but just one quick comment is that some of the board presidents and directors at the time in the past did not intentionally allow CAM to do those things.
Gotcha.
I frankly personally favored it. Again, those are things that an association manager would clearly do.
Right.
Eric Fury. My concern with CAM is they actually hired another guy. They ended up getting fired after 2 weeks for whatever reason and made excuses, and they never brought on that association. They're saying they can do it now, but again, you're right. They didn't do what I would.
Right, I've got a big question mark with them because, and like Bill told me that as of right now, y'all don't have an actual signed contract with them. The contract's.
Well, we do. It's canceled on 60 days. We had an extension. They can't actually file a lawsuit against us because we actually had 2 contracts at one time.
Right.
And we extended it for the addition of the contract and then until after the election, and we would evaluate it. The status of it now is we can cancel it at any time with 60 days notice. And that's frankly what it's going to look. It's going to take us 60 days to go through the evaluation process for other companies. Maybe we don't want it. We want to consider those things when we evaluate CAM. I certainly agree with you.
Right, I mean, I don't think they're number one on the list simply because they didn't follow through with what they promised.
Well, again, their excuse is prior boards didn't let them do what they were supposed to.
Okay.
I recognize you.
That is exactly my point. I'm not in love with CAM. Let's just get this out on the table. But they were not allowed to follow through with the mediation. And the mediation was never, ever put forth and followed. That's
Right.
right. So who in the world would be so stupid? Okay, we're going to get paid all this, but they're not allowing us to do what we're supposed to do.
Right.
So they're just as dumb as a fox.
Right. Well, yeah, because they were getting
But
paid
the board
same
didn't
amount.
allow them to do it.
Right.
The board
But yet
has.
we were paying for them to be doing these things.
May I suggest that this is not a discussion of the camp? If you want to take that offline, I'll be
No,
glad to
my
listen to
point
what
of
you're going to
bringing
say.
it up, the point of me
Understand.
bringing it up is that I question the quality of CAM. Simply
Fine.
because I think they
No.
lied.
No,
Yeah.
no,
Or they didn't follow through.
noted,
They weren't allowed to follow through.
Okay.
noted.
Okay.
Can I have the floor?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to read the work order management requirements, okay? Under this request for proposal process,
Mhm.
okay, we'll establish a management committee or maintenance committee, okay? And to that end, and we'll request this from all of the vendors for the request for proposal. And that is to provide a work order management system, okay? I think that maybe we leverage technology to do that. Serve as a point of contact for members, both to receive a work order and update its ongoing status. Qualify the legitimacy of the association's responsibility consistent with our CCNR, which is the declaration covenants and all of that. Prioritize repairs by emergency, leak, safety, critical, WDO to support the sale and all others, okay? Obtain contractor proposals for more than one of the value. Well, when the value of the work order exceeds $1,000. Schedule, execute, and document the completeness of work as approved by the committee. okay? Obtain BMC and treasurer's authorizations to pay invoices, document the ongoing status of all work orders, and prepare a monthly report to the maintenance committee. Ensure compliance with our insurance requirements, and then issue a monthly status report of all open and closed work orders to date. Okay. Now there are going to be procedures to to outline how a work order is initiated, how it's responded to, how it's clarified, reviewed, how it's given an engineering report so they can be bidded out through proposals, to accept proposals and all of that. And we're here to meet to discuss how those two things are going to, how we are going to enact those things, okay? And we have been very, very diligent in responding to whatever request, to the requests of the members here to get this done. It is no easy task. That requires a lot of hard thinking, okay? I haven't done all the hard thinking. It's been a team effort to do this hard thinking. And I'd like to lay that out now as let's get to this, looking at these things and looking at the procedure, okay, the resolution that we have, all right?
Police, could I get involved as well too at some point? Sure. When you're done.
Just one thing, thank you, Chester, for
Okay, I just thought we needed
delineating
to put that in there at this time.
Thank you for delineating on the work order process. And the work order process is something that we've been working on as a subcommittee since May of last year. And that is how to go about and coordinate the efforts with the CAM so that we know what they're doing and we know how they're tracking to meet the response of the homeowners. Now, what I can tell you relative to the work orders, in the responses that we've seen since May, the closure rate has been 55% of work orders closed. We are now at 66% of work orders closed because we're reacting quicker. And the reason we're reacting quicker is because we're holding their feet to the fire. We're determining that they have to give us what they signed up for in the contract to bid the work orders, get them scheduled, and complete them, and then report back to the board of directors and the homeowners on the completion of the work order document. The problem that the CAM has been having is that when they close a work order, they haven't correlated the closure of the work order with the invoice from the contractor. So they really didn't know whether or not the work order was closed or open until that invoice was sent to the board of directors and they approved the invoice and the CAM paid for the work to be done. At that point is when the actual work order should be closed. Because the process is not complete until you do that correlation between the work order number and the invoice. But none of the work order numbers came back on the invoice, so we couldn't do that correlation. That's what we're working with the CAM now, so that they can add the work order number to the invoice that goes out, so that we can close loop the system and get that work order out of there. Now that'll give us the date of the completion of the work, and now we can correlate accurately when the work order was open, the request was made by the homeowner, and when it was actually closed, because they got paid. Right? We didn't have that before, and that's where we are right now. So thank you for that, and there is that and a lot more in the RFP. I really encourage you to read it, because if you don't know what's in it, let's not do a political hack statement. You got to read it to know what's in it. Just check it out. This is going to affect you. And this is the direction that we are proposing. And we're going to put it to a vote when it comes to the next meeting. So, have an educated vote. It's not that long. So from a work order perspective, I think I don't have anything else to cover in that regard, other than the fact that we've included that. From the RFP perspective, I've sat down with Bill and we've looked at each of the points that we put in there with complete definition of what we expect the management company to do for us. And the next step would be to get it approved by the homeowners, issue it, distribute it out to the management companies, and then wait on their response. And then once they respond, we will go through our evaluation matrix and fit them into that evaluation matrix to see what's the best bang for the buck for our community of Bigtree. And I thank you for your time.
All right. I'd like to speak a little bit about the mediation settlement agreement and a resolution that I have drafted and circulated around that I think is really intended to kind of bring some things to a head. Number one, we're not complying rather with the terms. So let me give you the summary that will help you. Understand, Carol, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got it. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if any of you remember my Neighborhood Gecko newsletters, but way back when in 2014, I railed against the idea of self-management because I thought there were a lot of things about self-management that were not good for the community. And when I look at what we're doing now, we are self-managing our buildings and our grounds maintenance rather. There's one person who's making decisions for all the building maintenance. We use vague notions of, doing leaks, safety, and worst first, but there really isn't anything that's written down or priorities established. No one knows when their unit or their building is going to be done next. We have a significant backlog of work orders, even though Luis has done a lot of work to try to tighten things up. But we have, I've got one on there. I've got a hole in my building that's been there for 6 to 8 months that hasn't been addressed because we don't really have a good process to review what's in the work order database and attend to those things. And Cam truly is in the dark right now. You call Cam and you ask him what the status of your particular work order is, and they're going to say, we don't know because we referred it to the board. We don't know because we referred it to the board. The truth is they don't know anything. And we're not going to fulfill the commitment that we promised to say that we're going to do all the buildings in the first 2 years of our purported 5-year plan. That is just not a reality. We don't have the money. We have 40% less money to deal with this year than we did last year. So how are we going to explain to the homeowners that have to wait for another year to get their buildings repaired? Next, we have a court-ordered, legally binding agreement that we are ignoring right now and have been ignoring. We've ignored it for almost 3 years. We're vulnerable to litigation, both relating to the MSA, the mediation settlement agreement, and to the fact that there are a lot of ticked off homeowners who are not getting their buildings done, and they could sue us at any time for not performing our duties under the CC&Rs. Now, I want to talk a little bit about Larry, and I know he and our attorney, Sean Morrell, have had some discussions. I will open up to anybody that wants to see the back and forth on those discussions, and you'll find that Morrell backed off on most of what he was saying to Larry about there not being a substantial risk. In fact, all of the directors are reminded because we got a letter in our mailbox, courtesy of one of the former litigants to the MSA agreement, and it basically is compelling us to comply with the terms of the MSA. And we have not turned over the management of the buildings and the grounds to our management company. We just haven't done it. We've chosen not to do that. Now, as far as the D&O policy, we have a directors and officers liability. None of us would be up here if there wasn't a directors and officers liability policy to protect our interests making decisions on behalf of the community. Now, I want it to be understood really well. We get sued. The association doesn't get, the association can be named in a lawsuit, but it's the individual directors who are at risk. And you have to understand that a directors and officers liability protects my interest and everybody else's interest up here. The thing is, there's a $50,000 self-insured retention. That means the community bears the risk up to $50,000 for both the expenses of the litigation and any indemnity that comes out of the litigation. So we, all of us, have a credit risk. We know that the financial condition of the association is precarious. Do I want to rely and take the credit risk of the association to indemnify me for expenses that I am going to be personally held liable for? I don't think so. And the other thing is, anything related to the mediation settlement agreement is specifically excluded. There is no coverage, not even subject to a $50,000 self-insured retention. So what makes us think that the corporate indemnity is going to protect any of us in here? Because we are in willful disregard of the mediation settlement agreement. And when you're in willful disregard, the value of the corporate indemnity under our bylaws goes to zero. And I don't care what our attorney says, because our attorney is not a D&O. I don't know what his knowledge is of directors and officers liability, but I'll tell you what, I've seen, and I will share with anybody that wants to see it, the back and forth discussion we've had, and I think we got some very poor advice. And in the end, he backed off. And he
That's absolutely untrue.
he basically
Absolutely untrue.
You can read
We have
it.
the documentation.
You can read it yourself.
What do you mean he backed off?
We didn't back off.
His issue was if Cam wasn't willing to deal with the administrative expense that I was proposing that they be involved in, meaning the management of our buildings, you know, that there could be an additional cost. Now, I don't know. I've shared drafts with Cam. I've given Cam the opportunity to comment. I have heard word zero. If Larry's heard it, he hasn't shared it with me. I don't know anything.
Okay.
Now,
Is this attorney who you're speaking of, is he our attorney?
he is Cam's, he's Cam, he's
But
really
he's Cam's
brought
attorney.
to us from.
No, he's our attorney.
Okay. If he works
He's
for
not
Cam.
Cam's attorney.
Well, he was recommended by Cam.
Well, he's our
He
attorney.
has an association with Cam.
He's a very
Well, don't you
competent.
think that's a conflict of
Yeah,
interest?
let me.
Because he's working
Yeah.
for
It's
Cam.
got nothing to do with Cam, though. He's not defending
Okay.
Cam.
Now,
Nothing to do with Cam.
the purpose of the resolution are the 3 bullet points that I put here. I'm trying to come up with a process that's fair. Now, maybe it's not fair. We can debate the details of it. You know about details of the devil. So we can debate that and whether some things about the proposed resolution are going to work or not going to work. But my intent is for them to work. And it will comply, best I can tell, with the terms of the MSA. Now, that could be disputed. I'm not saying that it couldn't be disputed, but the intent is to comply with the terms of the mediation settlement agreement. And yet, it does preserve our duty. I mean, we just can't handle over the keys to the treasury to a management company and say you can spend all of our money on building maintenance. We as a board have to have some involvement in the spending decisions. So the resolution that I've created allows the board to have involvement in the authorization of spending, and it keeps me out of it entirely because I'm the treasurer. I don't want to be involved in authorizing the work. I want to authorize payment. I want to make sure that the work was done and that the bills that we get, the invoices we get, match up with the proposals that were given to us. So my role is really proper checks and balances, is not to be involved in the authorization process at all. Now, the resolution that I have proposed has these features to it. There's a building maintenance policy. We've never said exactly what is our building maintenance policy in this community. This attempts to define exactly what we will do and the standard of repair to our buildings. It's very specific. There's limitation of liability, which just reiterates what's said in our CC&Rs And the only thing that's different is I made an attempt to define exterior building surfaces. And if you look on the second page of my summary, you're going to see I Google all kinds of stuff. And yes, it does include windows. And yes, it does include doors. And yes, it does include a lot of things that keep the interior protected from the exterior of the environment. So, you know, we can debate the details. We can get into this. Yeah, which is why we're here. Priorities. It's very clear. We have 4 distinct sets of priorities in the proposed resolution. So you know what's going to be done first. You know what's going to be done second. You know what's going to be done third. And by the way, if we run out of money, it means we run out of money. We can't do it all. You know, that we can only do what we have money to pay for. But at least it establishes priorities so that we know how we're going to allocate our scarce resources.
Bill? I have a question for Chester, if I may, regarding your delineation of interior and exterior responsibility.
Can we save that until later? I'd like to go through the whole thing here first. Then it's very specific about roles and responsibilities. And like I said, we can't just turn over the keys to the vault. You know, we have to be involved in the money side of things. Somebody else is going to be involved in recommending to us what maintenance needs to be done on the buildings. And those are going to be professional contractors. It's not going to be us, because I don't know anything about maintenance, and I swear most of the people up here, maybe Richard Wakely knows a whole lot more about maintenance than any of the rest of us combined. But I tell you, I don't know anything about it, and I don't want to be involved in making the decision whether this building gets done before this building, before that building. That's why I want to have professional contractors come in here and help us define exactly, if we've got a finite amount of money, I want them to tell us, okay, if you only have so much money to spend, either you spread it out over a longer period of time, or you allocate it to, you know, these things first because they're the highest priority, consistent with, you know, what we've defined as our building maintenance policy. And then the last thing is procedures, and this is where you invent the Rube Goldberg machine. And I understand it is a Rube Goldberg machine, but at least it attempts to clarify what the individual steps are in the building maintenance process. Again, we can debate it and decide whether that's something we want to do or we want to change it. You know, there's a lot of room to talk about how we could make modifications to what I'm proposing. Now, what I'm proposing is a major change. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's not what we have done in the past. I am the first one to acknowledge that. You know, CAM has been paid for these services, but they haven't performed them. So, you know, they've had a kind of a free ride for going on 3 years now because they haven't been held accountable for the building or the grounds maintenance. And the truth is, you know, had we turned it over to CAM, we probably would have had to work out something like what I'm proposing in the way of a resolution because, like I said before, we just can't hand it over. So we would have had to work out the details, but we never had to do that because we never relinquished control. Now, admittedly, it's going to require more work. But you know what? I think the payoff for us is that the homeowners have better clarity and better certainty about what it is that we're going to do for them in here. Now, is CAM going to resist? Could be. I have no idea whether CAM is going to resist or not. They've been given the opportunity to comment and they haven't told me a thing. So why wouldn't they? They've been getting a free ride for the last 2.5 to 3 years. Why wouldn't they resist doing it? I mean, honestly. And then, you know, if CAM isn't the right management company for us, then, and we like what's in the corporate resolution, the proposed resolution, as modified or as it's currently standing, it can be part of the RFP process. And when we go out and talk to all the prospective management companies, we can include a copy of this thing in there with them so that they understand exactly what we expect them to do. So that said, I open it up to any comments.
I want to.
Wait a minute, I want to.
Let me ask you a question
Go ahead.
before you start. The concern I would have, Chester, is that there is a clear delineation in the resolution on what's covered, what's not covered, and so on. I would like to make sure from a documents committee standpoint that you're heading up that there is, in fact, there's commonality or there's conflict between what is in our governance documents, because I feel if that resolution is adopted, then our governance documents should reflect that info, number one.
Can I just make a point on that?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not suggesting changing anything about our basic governing documents. This is how you
I
interpret.
understand, but
And if-
there's a conflict.
I don't.
Because you put together a very clear delineation, a dividing line between interior, exterior, what's covered, what's not, and none of that is in our
That was
document.
from 1980. Look, I mean,
Exactly.
Look, if we don't repair, and I'm not talking about replacing a window just because, you know, you want double pane glass or you want glass that keeps the sunlight out and stuff like that. I'm not talking about that, but if the windows or the original construction, by the way, any homeowner improvements in here are not included in my definition of what we would do. So if anybody's changed out the sliding glass doors in their patio, guess what? Their responsibility. It's not
None
our
of that
responsibility.
exists in our
But
documents.
because it was
And
never,
they clearly
never.
define-
That's how it was always determined, that's how it was always told
They
everybody.
clearly define, Chester, correct
Let
me
me,
if
let
I'm
me
wrong.
give you a history. I'll give you a history. Okay, first of all, we'll go to the original declaration, okay? And it states, in addition to maintenance upon the common area, the association shall provide exterior maintenance upon each unit, which is subject to assessment thereunder. As follows: exterior paint, repair, replacement.
Now, you're reading from the
repair.
governance document?
I'm reading from the.
The CCNR, yeah.
Okay,
okay.
all I'm asking, Chester,
Well, okay.
all I'm asking is that as the leader of the documents committee, you verify for us that we have no
Well,
conflict
let
with
me
the
give you
record.
the input that's going into this situation.
I've read it, I know what's there.
Well, you don't have
I've been
another
on
thing
that
that I'll talk about. I thought you know it, but they don't know it, so I'm going to describe that to them. And care of the roofs, gutters, downspouts, exterior building surfaces, including the fence and trellis, which is appurtenant, which means all of us own, but none of us own directly, okay?
Chester,
To
can you
each
speak up?
unit, trees, shrubs, grass, walks, streets, curbs. All other maintenance not specifically described herein shall be at the owner's expense. Costs associated with the exterior maintenance by developer, and now we're no longer under developer. And incidentally, the developer could change these documents at will until they turn this over to us.
Yeah.
So they've been fooling.
Can I-
Well, no, I
right.
want to finish all of
All right.
this, okay. Costs associated with the developer shall be and are hereby deemed to be permissible maintenance expenses for which annual assessments may be levied and collected. Now, in one of the newsletters, that was like a May newsletter of 2011, homeowners' responsibilities was expressed, okay? And the following list comprises items homeowners are responsible for whenever they had them, whether they had them installed them themselves, or existed when they purchased the property. Okay, there was another one that said if you build it, you own, and it was a document. But this is an addition, and there are 8 points that they mentioned. Okay, on single-story patio homes, the plexiglass type covering over the patio, and any damage that it creates to the adjacent wood due to lack of maintenance to the cover, periodic caulking, to prevent leaks and ultimate damage to the that kind of thing. If gutters were added, they are also the owner's responsibility. Any storage area inside the patios that rests against the fence boards and repair of such fence boards should be discovered that are boards that are damaged due to I'm sure I'm reading this right. Close proximity to the storage unit, which don't allow the wood to breathe, is not covered. Any trellis or balcony that is covered with vines that has rotted wood due to the...
Excuse me, Chet, do you
Yeah.
expect us all to remember what you're reading? We're
I will
not.
say this, that there are things here where we're contradicting what we want to do. The skylight and associated roofing materials around the installation, front door, okay, exterior door or any special trim.
Right.
Okay, ground plantings, screen patio enclosures. They actually mentioned windows, sliding glass.
What is the authority?
Huh?
The board.
That was the board's.
That was the board in 2011?
Yes.
Okay, so now we've got another referendum, but nothing in the documents that govern us.
Right.
My point was, whatever we're going to decide on, we want to make sure there's clarity, because you're introducing paper after paper after paper that
Yeah,
conflicts with
and I
what's in our
understand
documents.
that, but that,
That was meant to
when that was,
interpret.
when that was,
Interpret.
right, when that was authored, that became denial for service.
Right.
And that means that you're going to find yourself sitting there with a bunch of people that didn't get their windows replaced, that didn't get their sliding glass.
I'm talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm not.
It depends on who the board is.
if-
That
no,
is.
no, no,
That's
please.
what it comes down to.
There's been some differences of opinion on all these. Pulling it together, I will tell you that our attorney, Sean Morrell, did not back off on his position. He fully encouraged us to move forward. Yes, we would like a maintenance committee. Yes, we would like more transparency. Yes, we would like a association management company that does the job that we're paying to do. But we're putting ourselves at serious risk, our community at risk, if we go ahead and pass the resolution now without being aware of what it's going to cost us, whether it's going to work or not. And again, I talked to him as late as yesterday. He would very much like to come and speak to our homeowners himself. He's a very, very knowledgeable and experienced attorney. Answer all your questions. He will go through it. He wants the best for our Big Tree community. And he made it clear. In his opinion, there is zero financial risk for any Big Tree board member, period. And he'll explain all of the reasons why. That's not to say we shouldn't move forward in doing the right thing. To have the most effective, the most transparent maintenance and repair system, and same thing with our maintenance. We fully want a management company to get more involved. But let's not bite off something more than we can chew, put ourselves at legal risk, and he claims there's a real legal risk in doing that, and he'll explain all the reasons why. He does encourage us to move forward with plans, to get specific quotes and numbers, to come up with criteria as to how we're going to administer those things, which will have. There have been differences of opinion from different boards and the way things have been interpreted. That's one of the reasons that I've strongly supported a documents committee, that we need to get things clarified. We need to get things clear. They need to be voted on by all the Big Tree members, all of the homeowners, period. So we all understand we're working off the same thing. And so, again, our attorney's position is don't put the cart before the horse and vote on something that's going to possibly create legal problems for you. In my opinion, don't bite off, don't commit to do something when you don't even know what the cost is or whether it's going to work. Go through the process. There's no reason to sign or vote on anything next Wednesday. That's crazy. We got a lot of issues that need to be worked through. We need to talk to management companies. We need to get specific criteria. We need to get their cost proposals. We need to clarify some of these issues, and then we can move forward on it. So, again, I highly...
Let me ask
one thing.
Yeah.
What was Sean Morrell's opinion of the MSA when you first showed it to him? Did he tell you then that y'all ought to be actively
No,
abiding
he
by it?
said we could. You may want to go that way. He didn't look at it at any length, and it's true. We can. The initial proposal is we wanted to tighten things up and to
But
do
he
it.
didn't encourage you
He
to
did
do
not.
something about
He said
it?
you can go ahead and do it, but he came, quite frankly, when you look at the proposals now, he has got an opinion that go ahead and move forward with your plans, but don't jump into something that you don't know you can fulfill. We don't know that Cam can do it. We don't know that any other association management company can do it, particularly at a price that's affordable for BigTree. So if we don't,
Because the MSA was written and signed in 14,
and it was
I
never,
think, 3 years ago, y'all had somebody supposedly that could do it. Whoever the president or whatever it was, they wouldn't allow them to do it.
it wasn't implemented in 2014. Two of the complainants,
Or 15.
two of the plaintiffs were from the suit. Keep in mind,
Right.
a mediation settlement agreement is not law. It is simply an agreement to resolve a
It's
specific...
a contract, it's a legal
No,
contract.
it is not.
Yes, it
It
is.
is not. Let our attorney explain it to you. It is simply...
I already asked.
It's simply an agreement of the parties to settle a specific problem. That specific problem you have to do with a management company that was charging excessive hours and excessive costs. That was determined by again, I'm not making a judgment, I wasn't here at the time. That problem does not exist anymore. The plaintiffs themselves, 2 of them were on the board for all of 2015.
I want to make a point.
It was never implemented. And so let's not do something foolish. Let's not put our community at risk from a legal standpoint, according to our board attorney, or from a financial standpoint by committing costs that are not affordable, or at least knowing what those costs are.
Larry.
It just makes no sense.
Larry. Okay, I'd like to make a point.
Go ahead.
The point is that the resolution we have for the maintenance, okay, is a procedural document. How we process work orders, how we approve work getting done, and so if that document cited the CCNR as the exterior maintenance as is written, okay, and so we will try to interpret that in doing our processes to determine whether the work is authorized. Okay, then we'll have that in the document. I see no particular exposure to making it, this is our best effort to do this. I think it's done in the right spirit of things. And I think that I endorse the idea that we do the proposal,
Well, let me interrupt. Number one, it's not a procedural thing. It's a change. It's an amendment to our current governing document,
Larry, that's
which
just
our
not
attorney
true.
says
It's
is
a
It is
resolution.
not. It takes 2/3 of the homeowners in here to approve a change to our document.
that's not true.
It is, it does.
Yes, it is. That's what the papers say.
Larry,
You've even told me that yourself.
Well, I'm telling you what our attorney is telling us.
I question your attorney.
Yeah, well,
He didn't
it's not,
say that.
it's not
He
a
didn't say
faithful
that.
translation, believe me.
I was wondering if maybe one of the interviews of management company could be given before the community.
Absolutely.
that's what we're trying to do.
All
So
of them
that
should be.
there would be
That
back
makes
and
sense.
forth. It would be an open and honest process where clarity would be the goal.
Absolutely.
That's part of the evaluation phase.
You know, the big question is, what's the big rush? Why are we trying to commit to something that we don't know the legal ramifications and we don't know the cost?
Because we are not
It makes
currently
no
in
sense.
compliance. We are
According
not
to our
currently in
attorney, we are,
That
and
is
it's not an
a
issue.
faithful translation.
Well, I appreciate it.
It's not a faithful translation.
This community has been burdened with exactly what is happening right here, right now, way many years. We need leadership. I think we need leadership through a management company that will guide us.
We agree.
What the possibilities are.
Well,
Well, we agree. That's what we're doing.
Stop yelling, Larry. Stop yelling.
I'm sorry. I keep my voice
Larry,
down.
I think your
Let her
leadership
keep
is
going.
one of our problems. but
Well, I
that's-
appreciate your opinion.
Well,
But
excuse
that's-
let her
me,
continue.
I'm speaking.
Yeah, let it continue. I'll respond to that right up.
If we have open and honest process before the homeowners, where an actual interview can be given to where we're speaking with professionals and not your opinion.
I agree.
And the strength of your voice and just overrunning every meeting we've ever had. And I know that you do not have ears to hear, and I find that to be an issue. So I would highly hope that other members on the board would open up the process, move forth without all of this animosity that I think is being created by our leader.
Well, number one, I don't think there's any
I
animosity.
do know that I'm faced with the results of lies you have spoken of about me.
That's
And
not true.
I came to this pavilion, you were sitting right here at that point in time. I requested, Louis Lara was new to the community with his wife. There was another person sitting here. I asked you to please stop putting lies into the community about me. You were very dismissive, as you're being dismissive now. I request to you one more time as the leader of our community to please stop with what you're doing.
Well, that's totally untrue, and I agree with you 100%. We should have an open meeting. We should have our board attorney there. We should have management companies to come in and present a proposal. We should have an open discussion on it. And I'm not trying to. The reason I spent the time talking so much in our prior board meetings, 3 out of the 4 board meetings, I was the only board member there.
There. You know what? There are
I
some
appreciate
things-
your opinion, but
And look at you going, I appreciate your opinion, but guess what? Yours is nothing more than opinion as well. That's what you don't seem to be open to.
we're listening to everybody's opinion. I just said I agree with you.
No, you just held your hand up to me. I appreciate your opinion, but please stop
Well,
talking.
I'm just emphasizing that.
I'm just emphasizing that I'm a reflection.
I don't
of
want to
you.
argue. Your suggestion was a good one.
And my
We-
suggestion is that you let other members of this board speak.
And I have been. Everybody's had an opportunity to speak. Luis, Bill has had an opportunity. Chester's had an opportunity.
I want
Richard.
another opportunity. I got a question for Joshua. Joshua, do you live in 39, building 39, I think it is?
Yes.
Your neighbor, one of your neighbors out on the street side, you don't live on the street side.
Abby,
Okay.
Who?
Abby, just to the,
There is a hole in the side of their building. And I know damn good and well, because I had one just like it at one point in time. I know there's water going in there. I know there's probably squirrels and everything else going in there.
Well,
No, I want it to be first on the list. Building 3, 33, 38, and
No,
39.
I'm not on the building and maintenance.
Okay, well, I
Not
just,
building and maintenance director.
talk to your neighbor and see if they've even put a work order in. I think they're elderly and maybe they don't even know. But I know there's got to be a problem going on in that building, and it drives me crazy because it never gets worked on.
and at our annual meeting, we said our goal for early this year was to reevaluate every building in Bigtree exactly the way we did last year. We would have the professionals, not myself, not Bill, not Chester. We would have our professionals rate the buildings that were most in need of repair, and we would come back to the homeowners and we would present a plan. I think that's the right thing to do, the fair thing to do. It's open and transparent. We have professionals making the decision, and then we develop a plan.
Those are the buildings that were on the list last year from the evaluation, and they haven't been touched. And
Well,
they're
we've done,
awful.
as I said, major repair work for $358,000 worth on 23 buildings. I would
Well,
say that.
Joshua's building neighbor needs help.
Okay, understood.
Larry, is your place on the calendar to be addressed, to be fixed currently?
Well, it is scheduled for roof and everything in 217.
What
definitely.
about the siding, wood repair?
Well, again, my position, and it's been well implemented throughout the year, is that we don't do things on a piecemeal basis. Look at the repairs that we make. Look at the building
What
right
I
here.
asked you is, do you know when your place is on the calendar to be repaired?
No.
You do not.
Anyways,
I'm just putting forward.
Well,
I know
anyways.
Joshua's unit got fixed when he bought it because it was sold, but the other 3 people in that building, it's just god awful. It looks like slums. And so does
but that's
number 3.
piecemeal work, if his work got done in the
Well,
rest of the building.
all the buildings are going to be evaluated. What else can I tell you? By professionals.
Who is that?
Who is that? Well, we're getting bids from 3 different contractors for every profession, okay?
Fabulous. That's
Roofers.
news to me. I've never heard
What?
that before. You're getting 3 bids from contractors
Yes.
to evaluate the building?
Yes, that's part of the
Wow.
plan.
Give me the next
3
thing.
roofers, 3
Oh, wait.
siding, 3 painters.
Have you done this, or is this just a plan?
It's in process.
Oh, okay.
It's in process.
Okay. Well, Josh
we
was
have
saying we gotta
indicated
slow down.
that we plan to make a report at the February board meeting with the results of the evaluation.
Okay, well, I'm
To
sure
all
a
the
management
homeowners.
company could do that probably in a very short period of time, like bam, bam,
I
bam.
have to say that's very important. I went home and I retrieved my copy of the mediation settlement that was formed, that we had. And in Article 5, here it goes. So if there's anyone here that's smarter than I am and can explain this to me, I would like for you to do this. Within 120 days of this agreement, the association agrees to hire a management company to manage the affairs of the association, including but not limited to buildings and ground maintenance, collection of assessments, maintenance of documents, and accounting matters. The association will include 3 management companies. Within 30 days, the plaintiffs may submit up to 2 management companies. That's okay. What does this mean when it says the association is going to hire a management company to take care of the buildings, grounds maintenance, collection of assessments, maintenance of documents, and accounting matters?
Well, number one, if you look at the 15-minute mark at our annual meeting, before he researched the details, Sean Morrell makes 7 minutes worth of remarks on that specific issue that I think are very telling. He wants to come before, at a board meeting, before the homeowners and explain exactly, in his opinion, what that means, and his recommendation on how we should proceed. Okay? He's in favor of moving forward with a lot of the things that we talked about. But he highly recommends, says we're putting ourselves at risk if we jump ahead before knowing all the specifics in terms of what it's going to involve and that we really accomplish it. Pure and simple. So let's move forward. Let's hear from our attorney. Let's get our contractors evaluating all of our buildings, make a presentation to the homeowners, get the numbers on what it's going to cost to do those things, review it with our budget and see what is doable, and develop a plan from there.
Why haven't we done this?
Why wasn't it done? Why didn't it happen when you first took over last year, a year ago?
Well, because the maintenance settlement agreement was not even mentioned until Bill Jasper went to the CAM team offices sometime in November and was reading through the documents. That was never mentioned. Nobody ever mentioned it when I was a board member.
See, that's a...
I was on the board in 2015 as treasurer as well. 2 of the plaintiffs were on that board. They never followed it. They never mentioned it. Okay?
That's the one thing I think that we've been weak on, and that's continuity. You know, when one board relinquishes control to another board, all of a sudden everything gets lost.
And that's why we need to pull together a comprehensive
Yeah,
plan.
well, because the board becomes lobotomized, you know.
This is the thing, everything you have just said, I've been trying to put forth as a recommendation to our communities since 2000. We're now in 2017, and the same issues and dissatisfactions are repeated year after year after year after year, and then our leaders misrepresent fact. And that further confuses the community and inflames people's emotions, and nothing is ever accomplished. So this, everything, everyone has spoken of here today, the confusion about everything, the dissatisfactions, the emotional content behind everything has been going on as long as I have lived in Bigtree. And it's been very, very intense, and people need it to end. Now, you say, we as a board, we are getting this done, and we're getting that done, and we're getting that done. It's my understanding that that conversation should be not even going on at this point, because it appears to me, and I can't speak because I'm involved in this, but it is the board's participation that has put us where we are in the past and currently.
Okay.
So,
Can I answer?
please don't roll your eyes at me.
Let
her finish. Let her
I need to
finish.
Let me answer something here. I'd like to provide.
Just let her finish, and then you can comment.
Okay, go ahead, finish.
I'm tired of hearing you talk.
Okay.
Is that it? Let me.
No, let me make a comment. First, I think you're taking things out of context. I've been told over and over and over again that, for example, last year, we have accomplished more than any other board
Larry,
since they've
nobody wants
lived.
to hear this.
Would you let me talk, please?
No, I'm tired of hearing it, and so is everybody else.
Well, it's the truth.
It is, you misrepresent fact, and I ask of you once again to stop.
You're not letting me talk. You
You
ran
are
for the
so
board.
childlike.
You ran for
Please
the...
let someone else behind you talk for a change.
Well, I just wanted to say one thing about it, management.
Disgusting.
Dion, so please stay here.
Oh, I am. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just
Okay.
standing up to stretch my.
Management companies at their best do two things. They facilitate and they.
Let a management company and speak to us and tell us who they are,
Oh,
who
you
they
didn't
are.
listen, now,
And let your
guys.
homeowners.
Definitely.
Oh, you say definitely now.
Well, no, that's been the plan.
That's part of the process. If I just made it elaborate a little bit more on that. Our first step was to draft the RFP. Make sure that it was inclusive of all the requirements that BigTree needed to comply with the MSA. And secondarily, present it to the homeowners as a draft so that in our next HOA meeting, we can vote on, do we accept it as written? Do we add to it? Do we identify an additional management
You're just
company?
postponing the inevitable.
Excuse me,
Just putting it off.
do me the courtesy to finish, please.
Well, no, what do you mean by that?
Do we, I don't want to get sidetracked. Do we then go out to these management companies with the concurrence of the board? Once their bid comes back to us, we reconvene with the homeowners, we present the matrix, we let the company or company representative that is bidding for the work talk to the management association and let you ask your questions of that management company. At that point, we will need to have another special meeting to decide we're ready to go with proposal A, whatever that happens to be. And that's the process of elimination. Now, other than that, I'm open to all kind of suggestions on how to process the RFP, gather their input back from the, because they're all going to have to be interviewed. They're all going to have to talk and present their case to the homeowners, and then the decision is made collectively. That's where I'd like to say that. And if that's not adequate, I can't help it.
I would like to say, I think one of our biggest problems currently, right here, right now, is leadership. And as long as we have animosities by board members towards homeowners that are trying to upright our position, we are going to get nowhere fast. So I ask each of the board members to open your minds to understanding where we are in a way that is inclusive, and hearing things that are important, because there are people in here who have history, who have been fighting for everything that you think you're fighting for, that have been denied. And so I ask of you, because I know what I got from Chester when I walked into this meeting, and I asked you outright and specifically.
Well, you came in on the heels of this letter that came from your
I'm
lawyer.
just a homeowner trying to right the wrongs of BigTree. That does not mean that I need to be abused any longer by board
This
members'
lawyer demanded
attitudes.
a compliance by a certain date, otherwise he'd go into litigation.
Check.
But what is that?
You're missing the point.
Well,
I am
who
a
did that?
homeowner since before 2000 in BigTree.
Yeah.
I have worked with all of my might to do everything that you have suggested